Caleb is a coalition of churches, nonprofits, labor unions, civic organizations that come together around common issues in order to build power for change. I mean, that's really the short of it.
Especially in action. I think, faith without works is dead. And then equality of seeing that everyone has a seat at the table. And then also love. Without love, we won't be able to do anything, or nothing will be fruitful of what we do. And then benevolence is the kindness. Just showing kindness in a mean world, I think speaks volume, as well as there are so many people that have it in their heart that they want to do something, but don't know how to do it, or where to do it, or how to get involved. And so right now, what Caleb is at the right moment is because we're just a reflection of allowing people to see that it can no longer happen on our watch. I think that the time of change is always now. There's never a period where we can wait for justice to come. We're going to have to make it come. I think that the time is right now because we have so many committed and dedicated people that have sacrificed their time to say, I want to be involved. Not just speak of what they want to do, but actually put their heart and their soul and their monies behind it. And I think that's what has helped us. When you have dedicated people, when you have committed people, when you have people that have found their passion, that's what has made the difference. We have been able to connect people that have found their passion. They have found their voice, and they are using it.
Welcome candidates and constituents to the Thursday, February 10th edition of Candidate Interviews with Caleb's Economic Mobility Task Force. This group has been working within Caleb to put together a sort of agenda for working Chattanoogans, putting their priorities into some concrete forms of change that we're hoping to see in the city. And we've been lucky enough to be joined by many candidates for both mayor and council, and to hear their thoughts on our points, their plans to increase the equity and the well-being of Chattanooga workers. And we're excited to be joined tonight by several of those council candidates. From District 5, we have Leanne Jones, and we're hoping to have Miss Cynthia Stanley Cash. From District 1, we have Chip Henderson, sitting council person. And from District 7, we have Raquetta Dotley. And those will be the four candidates we're interviewing tonight. We encourage everybody who's joining us either on Facebook Live or in the Zoom to post any questions you may have for these candidates, especially questions around economic mobility. Post them in either the chat function of Facebook Live or straight into the Zoom chat here. And we hope we'll have a chance to get some of those questions after a few prepared questions by our members. To kick things off, we wanted to have each candidate introduce themselves and give us a 1-minute synopsis, a brief version of who you are, why you're running for office, and what you're hoping to do for Chattanoogans. So we'll start off in reverse district order, starting with Miss Dotley in District 7. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself and tell us what you're all about?
Sure. Thank you all for having us on. My name is Raquetta Dotley. I'm a candidate for City Council District 7. I'm born and raised here in Chattanooga. I attended Brainerd High School as well as the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga and got my master's at Temple Baptist Seminary. My platform is neighborhood equity, economic development, and infrastructure and transportation. I serve on several boards. I love the community. I'm all about building stronger communities. So Early voting is now, so go vote Raquetta Dotley. And of course, election day is March 2nd. So I'm excited to be here and excited to get this thing going.
And we're very excited to have you. Thank you. Miss Jones, would you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about your candidacy, please?
Absolutely. Again, thank you so very much to each and every one of you that are here. Thank you to Caleb for extending the invitation. Hello to all of the candidates that are here. I hope you all are doing well. I hope this campaign season is treating you all kindly. But as he did state, my name is Leanne Jones. I am running for City Council for District 5. I'm 30 years of age. I am the youngest candidate running. I am a graduate of Brainerd High School. I am currently studying Christian family and individual counseling. I have received my degree from the Interdenominational Theological Seminary out of Morehouse College. I am a person who loves people. I love to serve. That is what my campaign is built on, and that is what I hope to bring to the council if and when I am elected to this district. As Ms. Dotley stated, today was the first day of early voting, and it goes all the way up until the 25th of this month, and election day is on March 2nd. So I hope you all do your homework. I hope you all vote for me. I hope I can garner your support, and I look forward to serving this community.
Thank you so much. I believe we're still waiting on Ms. Cash. So Councilman Henderson, if you'd be so kind.
Thank you, sir. And it is a privilege to be here tonight. My name is Chip Henderson. I do represent District 1 currently. I am running for my third term and thankfully unopposed. They say you run two ways, either scared or unopposed. And thankfully I'm running unopposed. But I do want to participate in the forums to try to encourage people to get involved, to come out and vote. In fact, I was on a radio show this afternoon, and I was just encouraging people to get out, go vote, get involved. Our government works best when people are involved. And the reason I'm running again is I believe I have the integrity, the compassion, and the ambition to continue to do the job to serve the people of Chattanooga. My platform pretty much has remained the same, dedicated to improving our infrastructure, making sure our streets, our sidewalks, stormwater, our sewer system is all the way it should be. Public safety, making sure that we have a well-paid, well-maintained, well-equipped and trained fire and police department. And then workforce development. And that workforce development is something that I've really concentrated on in the last 4 years. We have been working with the agency here in town to try to bring a vocational school back to Chattanooga to be able to train not only our young people, but those individuals that somehow have become invisible to us in the city of Chattanooga that are either underemployed or just unemployed. And we want to be able to offer some workforce training to be able to help rise these individuals up and live the best life that they can.
Thank you. So as I mentioned in the introduction, we are the Economic Mobility Task Force of Caleb. And we have, over the last year, put together sort of an agenda for our own group and a platform that we hope candidates will adopt. And there are certain points concerning the economic mobility of Chattanooga citizens that we have taken the time to put into a presentation that we gave, it seems like a month ago now, and it is available on our website, calebcha.org. So do check out the full version of that. It runs about 40 minutes, I believe. But we are going to play now an abbreviated version of that that kind of touches on our broad platform and one particular area that we are particularly concerned with, that we thought crystallized a lot of the issues we see with the interaction of city government, business, workers, and the sort of status quo that we're hoping to alter in positive ways for everyone in Chattanooga. So if our tech team would cue that video, we'll go right into that.
Our values or what good development looks like are living wages. No one should have to work more than one full-time job to provide for themselves or their family. Community stability. Investment should increase opportunity and quality of life for low and moderate income families. Every Chattanoogan deserves secure housing in a safe and thriving community. Our third value is equitable transit. When people have access to safe, affordable public transit, they're able to get to jobs, training, and education that provide pathways to economic sustainability.
And so what do we want? We want transparency and accountability. We want transparency and a community voice in decisions involving public money that will impact our neighborhoods. And we want accountability, community-centered metrics that ensure that companies who get public resources are actually benefiting our people. And what we want, good development. Good development happens with us and not to us.
The real focus of our Development With Us campaign is on one factor that guides economic development here locally, and that is the tax breaks and incentives deals that are given as part of our recruitment of employers.
And every year, there are companies that receive tax breaks from our city. They're receiving public incentives to build their buildings and do business. And so we had some questions. What's the real magnitude of tax breaks in terms of real dollars? How do tax breaks work? Who decides which companies receive a tax break? How do we make sure that these decisions actually improve our health, wages, financial security, and life circumstances? And most importantly, where do you and I fit into that? So just last year, the amount of corporate property taxes that were forgiven or written off by the city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County totaled over $25 million. And typically these tax agreements last between 10 and 30 years.
That tax revenue, if it were collected, would be part of funding our local infrastructure, public safety, parks, libraries, neighborhood services. And when those essential public services come under strain, or when there is a lack of tax revenue, this is part of the reason why.
Not that tax incentive deals are necessarily bad. In fact, sometimes they're very needed, but we have questions about them. So it turns out with that $25 million that was given out in tax breaks last year, over 90% of these were given through a type of tax breaks called the jobs pilot. And typically these are used to help attract new development and new companies to the city.
A pilot stands for payment in lieu of taxes. It's basically an agreement between the city and a company that provides the company with a tax break for getting here. So it's an incentivization deal to get businesses to develop here. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing. They create, because we want development here, we want jobs here. But before we, start handing out jobs pilots, willy-nilly, we want to ask a few questions.
Do these tax breaks actually create real benefit for our communities? Is it worth what we would lose in property tax revenue? And would the company locate here anyway? Do they even need the incentive in the first place?
So I just want to talk a little bit about the current process for that and lay it out in a little comic. First, the city hires the Chamber of Commerce to recruit businesses to Chattanooga. From there, businesses will complete a jobs pilot application, and then the Chamber of Commerce reviews that application. So what about the public? Well, unfortunately, there are no publicly adopted criteria for jobs pilots and how those get put forward. And so there are no required public hearings and no staff report at this point. So very little public involvement. Next, the city's Industrial Development Board, also known as the IDB, conducts a final review of the pilot application. The IDB takes ownership of the land, equipment, buildings of the company, and then the company leases the assets from the IDB for a small amount. And so the big question we're asking here tonight, are these agreements benefiting our communities?
You've heard the expression, a picture is worth 1,000 words. I don't know, how much this map is worth. Basically, we won't go into the detail on it, but what it shows, anything you see in a color is tax advantage, which is to say it doesn't pay property taxes the way you and I do. So in it, we're showing pilots, we're showing tax increment financing, and we're also showing government-owned properties, which are tax exempt. And I think what this map tells us is that we've got a lot of properties in the city of Chattanooga that are colored. And so they're not saying they're not paying their fair share. There's some good reasons why some of them are not. But you can see when you take those properties out of the mix that the burden falls to the rest of us, to small businesses, to homeowners and all like that. So also given the fact that, as we said earlier, that this represents about $25 million just in tax incentives, we need to be really careful before we add more color to this map. As we've said earlier, we're not against all tax incentives, but we believe we need to be strategic. We need to make sure that any incentive, and we're talking specifically here about jobs pilots, that there is significant public benefit in terms of the number of jobs, the investment, but also the wages of these jobs. And also we need to make sure that the but-for test is met. The but-for test means without the incentive, we wouldn't be here. We feel like that some of the pilots that we've given in the past, the company likely would have located regardless. It was more the sort of the icing on the cake, and the cake was already baked. So we need to be really careful. We need to be strategic, we believe, in the future.
The process for actually arranging these pilots is extremely opaque, and it takes place between the mayor, the chamber, and the business in question. All right, yes, cut that person off. Terrible speaker. So there you have a very much abbreviated version of what we've been working on. As you can see, we chose to focus especially around this issue of jobs pilots and whether they are, first of all, benefiting the community, and second of all, whether the community has any real say-so in how they are administered and chosen. So we have some questions from Caleb members that we're going to move into right now. I'd like, if possible, a 1 to 2 minute response from each of you. Try to limit it. I know sometimes we'd like to run over a little bit, but just so that we can make sure we get to all the questions and any audience questions that may crop up, please try to limit it to 2 minutes. And don't be offended if I give you a little prompt toward the end of that period. I want to remind folks watching again on Facebook Live or in the chat here, post your questions in the chat and we will get to them at the end if we have time. So if I'm not forgetting anything, our first question is going to be from Miss Janice, and I will turn it over to her. And I'm sorry, that is what I'm forgetting. We'll go answers in order from Miss Jones, Mr. Henderson, then Miss Dotley, please.
Well, thank you for agreeing to meet with us this evening. My question is, as we've researched and talked to a variety of stakeholders about our current processes for granting tax incentives, we were surprised by the lack of information provided to both the public and key decision makers. Were there specific items in our Develop With Us presentation that you were surprised to learn? And were there aspects of the process that you would like to change?
So we'll go to Ms. Jones first, please.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ms. Janice, for that question. Were there any pieces of the Develop With Us portion that you all sent to us that kind of shocked me or surprised me? Not at all. But what it did do was it opened my eyes to a greater issue. One thing about it is there are things that, even though I'm running for city council, other candidates are running for city council, there are things that we learned during this campaign trail. And even though that is considered to be the process, sometimes it's really good for that process to be made known. I wasn't necessarily surprised, but I was more so shocked by knowing how much money in 2019 alone were given in tax cuts. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And so there are other things that we could do with that money if we would, refuse to allow these tax cuts or tax breaks to those companies or organizations that come here. And so for me, a part of the process that should be changed, I personally, at this moment, knowing what I know about the process, do I feel as though it should be changed? No, I just simply feel as though it needs to be more transparent. We need to make people aware of exactly the application process, how things work, how things go. Once we then dig into that process, if there are some things that need to be altered or need to be relooked at or rethought, then absolutely. But first, let's get to the point to where we are being open and honest about the process.
Thank you so much. Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, sir. As a business person, I'm always interested in my return on investment. And I think probably the biggest thing that I have been frustrated with and that I have tried to address when these pilots come before us, we're always given an economic impact. In other words, our return on investment. What are we getting for what we're giving up? And many times the chamber will come with some dollar figures, how many jobs it'll produce, what the economic impact will be to the city, what those return on investments will be. But what we don't have is a follow-up. We see the front end, but we never really receive anything in year 3 or year 5 or year 7 that lets us know what the actual impact has been for the tax dollars that we have given up. And so, we've talked about this. And this is this process starts out initially mostly between the mayor and the Chamber of Commerce, and we're brought into the picture once it comes time to vote. I would say the other thing, the real power that the city council has is in the vote. We have to approve or deny, and that's where the real power comes. I have over the past 8 years, I have voted to deny some pilots, and I have voted to approve some. And a lot of it here again is looking at what I feel like the return on investment is and the economic impact to the city of Chattanooga.
Thank you. All right, Ms. Dotley, please.
Yes. So your question is, was I surprised by anything? No, I wasn't surprised. I actually saw the original presentation. And even then I wasn't surprised. Some things that I would like to see changed within our current process are publicly available guidelines. What qualifies someone for a pilot? Just make that information available, which goes back to transparency and accountability. I also would like to see a required community input period. For instance, Councilman Henderson just mentioned the economic impact study, making that available maybe 7 to 14 days for the community to come in and say, okay, this is what we're going to gain. This is our return on investment for this. So just having that period where, again, that's another level of transparency, another level for us to hold them accountable. And then finally, just the due diligence study, which is basically the impact study, having that publicly available. I think a lot of the lack of communication, the lack of transparency around pilots is what is making it so difficult, because pilots in themselves, Chattanooga is a city like every other city. So we have to attract businesses as well, but having that information publicly available is what can bridge the gap, so that we can see what is going on, what is our real return on investment. So those are the things that I would like to see change within that process.
Thank you. I believe we have a follow-up.
Yes. We know that finding clear methods of constituent engagement that aren't merely perfunctory is not an easy task. Do you have specific ideas about how you will involve and engage your constituents in your own decision-making on council?
Thank you. And maybe we'll start with Councilman Henderson here.
I think one of the best ways that we can involve our constituents is through our neighborhood associations and making them aware of these pilots that are coming up and getting engaged at that very local level of your neighborhood association. The other thing that you can that we can do, and we have done, particularly with the pilot that came to East Chattanooga, I helped Councilman Byrd put together a community committee that sat down at the table and negotiated a community's benefit package. So I think putting together a committee of community citizens to interact with these businesses that are coming in to negotiate a community benefit package, I think is another way that we can also get the community involved at a very local level.
Thank you. Ms. Dotley, please.
Yes, what are some ways that I will include engagement, citizen constituent engagement? What I plan to do as City Councilwoman is to create a District 7 council, which will consist of 2 to 3 people from each community or each neighborhood in District 7. That will be one place of engagement. Another is actually going through the neighborhood associations. And another is print and email, just sending out information. I'm all about communication. So sending out information, knocking on a couple of doors, just getting feedback that way. So getting a well-rounded amount of feedback from each neighborhood in the district so they can understand, this is a pilot, this is what's coming, check out the stats, look at the economic report, what's your feedback from there. So I'm all about citizen engagement. So those are ways that I would get constituent engagement.
Thank you. And Ms. Jones, please.
Absolutely. So as both candidates have stated, it's all about constituency involvement. What does that look like? Does it look like having them involved halfway through the process? We want them involved throughout the entire process. If that means creating newsletters, making sure we have an email list, a phone banking list every week, however that looks like. And I know for myself, for my campaign, we started a podcast. And so if and when I am elected to the seat of District 5, that podcast will be continued. So we want to find ways to encourage our young people as well to get involved with this process that live in our respective districts. So that is a very easy and quick and kind of social media savvy way to get information out to our constituents while doing our job. And so for me, that is what that looks like, as well as making sure we have wonderful relationships built with the presidents of the neighborhood associations by creating councils, as Ms. Dotley said, or boards that come from the respective neighborhoods. So it's all about doing our best to making sure we communicate on a consistent basis with our constituents.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. We are now going to move on to our second scripted question. And for that, we'll turn to Brandon.
All righty. Thank you all candidates for joining us this evening. My question is, currently Chattanooga functions under a strong mayor form of government, with the mayor providing primary direction and the city council providing advice and final consent for plans put forward by the mayor's office. My question is, how would you interact and work with the mayor to ensure that your constituents' voices are being represented and acted upon?
And we'll go to Ms. Dotley first on this, please.
Okay, he said, how would I interact with the mayor to make sure that my constituents' voices are heard? So first, of course, hearing their voices first, coming from the neighborhood associations, from my District 7 council, hearing from union representatives. And from there, just it's all about collaboration to me and communication, just communicating, making sure that District 7 is represented well, that is coming across what the community wants. This is what we need in District 7. This is what we want in District 7, and how can we make that happen? So for me, it's all about communication, collaboration, and then that follow-up, that accountability to make sure that it is getting done. And then just making community members aware, like, hey, you told me the concern, you know, I've spoken to the mayor or whoever. And so coming back to the community, and they're going to hold me accountable as well, which I love that. But just communication, collaboration, and then that accountability is how I plan to work with the mayor.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Ms. Jones next.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brandon, for that question. First, we have to ensure that we have a good working relationship with the mayor. I know sometimes it can be difficult to maybe work with someone who may not share your fullest ideals, who may not even believe everything that you believe. But seeing as how the mayor's office and the council has to work hand in hand in order to do what's best for this city, it's important for each council person to have a good relationship with the mayor. So in regards to making sure that my constituents' voices are being heard when I take these issues to the mayor's office, I want to make sure that I hold a level of integrity when I'm speaking to my residents and they are voicing their concerns to me. When I do go sit down and talk with the mayor, I want to make sure, hey, for me, I remember what it is that my constituents are saying, not forget them when I go talk to the mayor's office just to put forth a motive or an agenda that I have, but it's all about the constituents that voted me into office and knowing that I'm going to do what's best in their interest and doing what it is that they have concerns for. So it's all about having integrity. It's all about remaining in communication with the mayor and with the constituents, as well as being a leader enough to hold fast to accountability that does come your way.
Thank you very much. And Councilman Henderson, please.
So the first thing I think you have to realize is that the council works as a body. That's where our real power is as a body. And there's a couple of things as a council person that you can participate in to ensure that that body is relaying their goals, their priorities to the mayor. And one thing is by creating a plan of action, which we have done as this current council, priorities, things that we would like to see, such as well-funded road infrastructure or public safety, ensuring that everyone feels safe in their community. Those are the types of things we put together and we forward those, send those to the mayor's office, as well as budget priorities. Don't forget, the power is in the vote. The mayor cannot even approve, or he doesn't even get to vote on his own budget. Who votes on the budget? It's the city council. So that's where the real power lies, in relaying to the mayor what our priorities are. And you have to learn to work as a body in order to relay those goals, those communications to the mayor. The things that are important to you, you have to blend in with 8 other council persons in order to get what you would like to see for your district in the budget or in the priority list.
Thank you. Thank you all for that. I believe Brandon has a follow-up, but I wanted to mention to folks watching on Facebook or in the chat here to add your questions, and we will take them after this section is concluded. So with that, Brandon, please take it away again.
All righty. Thank you so much, Jeff. So city council members are expected to do the work of representing their district and the city while also working full-time jobs. We know that you cannot be expected to be experts on every single issue. So my question is, what forms of additional independent support would you expect the mayor to provide for council members to help ensure that you have the information needed to do your job well?
Yes, so let's go to Ms. Jones first, please.
Absolutely. Thank you for that question. That was really a good question. One thing about it is, as we stated a minute ago, the mayor has a great responsibility in leading this city. And so not only is the mayor's responsibility to the constituents, but it's to the council. So we are hoping that the mayor would be willing to put at the disposal of the council members any and all resources that they need in order to do their job and to do their job well. Not only for the mayor, but for other council members that have been reelected into their seats. If they've been around the block a couple times, those that are new, are you going to, guide them and show them, well, hey, this is how this is done. This is how we don't do that, but I can show you an alternative way. If you may not agree with this process, maybe this is something you'd like to adopt. So I believe that's a double duty for the mayor and for council members that are reelected in regards to supplying resources and anything that may make that job a little easier for that council person.
Thank you. Let's go to Ms. Dotley, please.
Okay. And what resources we need as a city council and what we would expect from the mayor. And I agree with Leanne that making resources available to us so that we can better serve our constituents, whether that's through having a auditor there or an additional administrative staff, but whatever we need to do to be effective, because we are the voices of our particular districts, the voices of our community. So we want to be able to effectively serve. And like you said, some of us have, jobs, and this is a part-time job. So having that additional assistance, that additional staff there to help us move things along, for instance, talked about community engagement, helping with maybe writing postcards or helping us go do some door-to-door information, just the additional staff we need to make sure that we do the job. We're going to do it well, but more efficiently.
Excellent. Thank you. And Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, sir. Brandon, and thanks for relieving me for not having to be an expert in every field. No matter how long you serve, you'll find somebody that'll ask you a question that you don't know anything about. And that happens to me. And I'm like, of all the things that I know, you asked me one of the things that I have no clue about. But to answer your question on this, what we need to realize is the council needs to function as an independent legislative body apart from the administration. You have to realize that all the administrators work for the mayor. So whatever assistance we may be getting from the mayor's office is going to have the mayor's spin on it. So we need to make sure that we have the resources in our legislative body that we need in order to do the research and to have those things accessible to us to be able to make good decisions. One of the things that we had when I first came on the council was a position that was not very effective. We did away with that position, but we kept the funding for that. And I have put forward an idea to the council that we take that money and we use that for independent consultants. Whenever we maybe have a pilot that comes before us, we hire someone in the financial field to run some numbers for us. But we need to operate as an independent body, and that's what we were elected to do, and that's what we need to do, and not necessarily depend on whatever resources the mayor has.
Excellent. Very good answers, candidates. Thank you again. We're now going to move into some questions submitted throughout the presentation. We had one come in through the email. It's specifically in reference to something Councilman Henderson said about working on a community benefits agreement. But I think we can broaden that question out to, in the case of Mr. Henderson, what that experience working on a community benefits agreement was like. And for the aspiring candidates, Ms. Dotley and Ms. Jones, are you interested or amenable in working on bringing community benefits agreements to future projects that may receive either public funding, public land, or some sort of tax incentive that may come down the line in the next 4 years? So let's start with Mr. Henderson. Could you elaborate a little bit on the experience working with that community benefits agreement? And is that a form of, not to say legislation, but a form of agreement that has a future for Chattanooga and can be an effective tool for getting us better results for Chattanooga workers? Yeah,
so my experience with this particular pilot was just in, I think, forming or helping the committee come together so that the residents had a seat at the table. I think a community benefit package or a committee like this is a little bit of a two-edged sword, and you have to handle it with a little bit of care. While I don't think that you can just go in and place a number of demands on a company, I think it is very reasonable to go in and ask them for some incentives or for some benefits because of the tax incentives that the taxpayers are giving up. What you have to realize is that you can't go to the table demanding. Many times that will result in deal breaking and all bets off. But just my part, being involved with putting the committee together, and then letting the citizens, the community, sit down at the table with these individuals, and so that they can work out a package with the employer that is coming, I think is something that we will see more of in the future.
Excellent. And if I could just, before we move on to the other candidates, could you just give some examples, especially for us and for the candidates who would be first-time council people? What were some of the benefits that came out of this agreement that you?
Well, now here you go. You've asked me a question. To be very honest, I don't remember what some of the benefits were that came out of that. I do know that, and I remember, being involved to the extent that I remember seeing what they were. This was a couple of years ago, and I've completely forgotten what the actual benefits were. My apologies.
Not at all. Okay, let's move on to Ms. Dotley. Please share your thoughts on community benefits agreements, and do you think that these would be a useful tool for advancing economic mobility in Chattanooga?
Yes, I absolutely do believe that they are necessary. I do agree with Councilman Henderson in that you can't shove it down someone's throat, but I do definitely know that we need to bring them to the people, bring it to the companies from the community, because it all boils down to that return on investment. If we're looking at the economic impact statement and looking over that and saying, what is our return on investment? We need the community involved in that. Bring those community benefits agreements, whether it's about wages, about unions, about whatever it is, so that that company knows what is, this is our community. We want new business, we want development, we want sustainable businesses here, but we don't want to push people out and overlook them. We don't want to continue to have people coming from outside of the county, outside of the city, having the jobs that people in the city should have. So we want to have that community benefits agreement. And I think that it should be a part of every pilot. Anytime a pilot comes up or a TIF or whatever, that should always be a part of it. That's part of that citizen engagement, that community engagement. So yes, I do agree 100% with community benefits agreement. And the great thing about them, they'll be different for every community. So what you have on the River to Ridge plan, like the Tubman site, maybe something different that you would have, for instance, in Alton Park, they're building a new 240 unit apartment complex. That will be a different type of agreement. It's just all about that community, and the community feeling a part of the new economic development coming into their area, and that brings buy-in from the community, and that mitigates a lot of miscommunication as well. So I'm 100% for a community benefits agreement.
Thank you. And Ms. Jones, if you would, please.
Absolutely. I as well am all for community benefits agreements, and because it does more than just allow the community a seat at the table. It allows them an opportunity to learn. It gives them an opportunity to see exactly how business is done in the city that they live in. It gives them a reason to want to be a part of the negotiation process. Like Councilman Henderson said, you can't just go to someone and just shove what you want down their throats, especially when, it's a business and they're coming here and you could very well be an employee of that business. So you want to make sure you come to the table with an idea to learn, or with the mindset to learn, and a heart to want to fight for what's best for your community. It's all about making sure that the community has integrity in regards to these negotiations and the benefits that they're receiving from these businesses. And so I personally wholeheartedly believe in the agreements for the communities.
Thank you very much. All right, we have a question from Evelina in the chat, which I'm going to try to synthesize into, she actually put two questions. I'm going to try to synthesize them into one. Is there a certain type of business? She gives the example of cooperatives, and then goes on to mention new contracts that would use union labor or labor that pays a higher wage. So I'm going to make the question, is there a particular type of business, cooperative, contract that we want to prioritize as a city that you see delivering more concrete benefits to a wider number of Chattanoogans than we've had up to this point? So if you could say something about how to get better local jobs as a result of some of these agreements we're doing, and how to incentivize either cooperatives or companies that treat their employees better, maybe in this case, unionized companies. We'll start with Ms. Jones, please, if you're willing.
Absolutely. So one thing about it for me, it seems as though doing what's best for the community is always going to be a priority, or it should be a priority when bringing business to our communities. And so what does that look like? If there are other entities or cooperatives or jobs or companies that are willing to come here to provide employment to the people of this community, if that means it's going to put a number of people to work more than one company or cooperative would, then let's see about, bringing this one here first. Not necessarily prioritizing, but how can we get our community and get the people back to work, get them involved in, making better decisions for their families. It's all about equitable and well-paying jobs that come here. So if that means that we have to make a hard decision as to which company or cooperative that we're looking to bring here, then that may be what needs to be done. And in regards to incentivizing these businesses, I'm sure that there are ways that you can, maybe adjust a conversation by saying, oh, well, if you're going to come here, you're going to bring your business here, then one incentive for you is, alongside of the pilot that you may well already be getting, to come to this community, maybe there are a couple of things we can offer you. Maybe there are people who we know are going to show up to work. I know that is, as we stated before, that is an automatic in your return on investment, to know that people are actually going to show up to work. So I think it's a lot for me that I know I have to learn more about, and that I'm looking to learn more about. And it's also a matter of making sure we understand exactly what the businesses are looking for, and we know exactly what the people of the communities are needing in regards to work and having access to higher paying wages.
Excellent. So you actually gave me a great idea of how to rephrase that question for the subsequent two candidates. Should we be prioritizing quantity of jobs or quality of wages and benefits total? A lot of times, especially with pilots, we see a lot of jobs are created perhaps, but the jobs that are created are just a little bit above the minimum wage. And if in the next 4 years, if you're on council, would you like to prioritize quality of jobs or quantity? And is that a zero sum? Like, is it one or the other, or is there a way we can have both, as some of the suggestions Evelina put forward suggest? Let's go to Mr. Henderson and then Ms. Dotley, please.
So I think what you have to do is evaluate the situation. Number one, to see what kind of workforce that you have. And understand that Tennessee is a right to work state. So we have to operate within the TCA and make sure that we're following state guidelines. I want to pick up on something Ms. Dotley said, and this is something I've talked with about the chamber. It should be the citizens of Chattanooga that's filling these jobs that we're bringing in with taxpayer money. What I have asked is how many are coming from North Georgia or from Northeast Alabama. I don't want the jobs that are being filled to be filled by out-of-staters. Now, what I think that we do need to do is concentrate on workforce development, making sure that our citizens are well-trained, that there's a talent pool here. If truth be told, what companies are looking for at this moment is not pilots. They're looking for talent pool. They're looking for the workforce to be able to fill these jobs that they have. That's the most critical need for these companies right now. And if we want to attract jobs to Chattanooga, we need to get busy in the workforce development, making sure that we're training our people, making sure that they're ready for these jobs, that when they come, they can fill them. and we can fill them with our citizens, not from citizens out of state.
Thank you. And last, we'll hear from Ms. Dotley.
Yes, I think you mentioned quality over quantity, and I'm all for quality jobs. You know, instead of someone working 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, it's all about the quality of the job that they have. And I do want to echo what Councilman Henderson was saying regarding workforce development, the talent pool. That's what we do really need to focus on that, so that people can get the quality jobs that they have. And then sometimes you do need the quantity jobs. You need those where people just need to be staffed and going in, maybe manual labor, maybe whatever, that people can go in. So ideally, you can have someone come into a quantity job and get trained through workforce development and move to a quality job. So you can look at it, you know, as a process of both. So you can have both, but a primary focus will be on having quality jobs, but we do need that talent pool as well. So that would be my answer: quality over quantity.
Thank you so much. And I'm desperately want to follow up on some of those answers. I'm very curious to hear more from y'all, but we're right at an hour mark, and we have a last segment that is very important. We've put together this, we've shown you the presentation, we've had a little bit of Q&A here, and I hope that these conversations will be ongoing with all of you and your constituents, especially if you have members in Caleb. But we want to do a lightning round now where we ask each of you 4 questions, and these are going to be just yes or no answers. So if you find yourself needing to say more than yes or no, it's probably a no, right? So we'll go real quick and we'll go through with each candidate. I'll start again with Ms. Jones. And our first question is, will you commit to develop and implement clear, enforceable, publicly accessible criteria for jobs pilots? Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Dotley?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
Sure.
Second question. Will you help ensure that City Council, relevant boards, and the general public have thorough written information outlining exactly how a proposed tax break will benefit the public? Will you ensure that this information is provided well ahead of any vote on a pilot, TIF, or other form of public incentive? Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Dotley?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
I'm going to ask you to read that first part again. You're reading so fast, my ears can't keep up.
Okay. Will you help ensure that City Council, relevant boards, and the general public have thorough written information outlining exactly how a proposed tax break will benefit the public? Will you ensure that this information is provided well ahead of time on any vote for a pilot, TIF, or other form of public incentive?
So I'm going to answer yes to the second part. I'm not sure what that looks like on the first part.
Okay, thank you. Ask number 3. Will you support an effort to require relevant boards and City Council, the boards in question especially being the Industrial Development Board and the housing?
Health, education, and housing.
Yes, it has that terrible acronym that doesn't actually take all the words into it.
HEH.
Yeah, HEB board, IDB and HEB boards. Okay, so I'll start again. Will you support an effort to require relevant boards, especially the IDB and HEB board, to hold public hearings for prospective pilot proposals? Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Dotley?
Yes.
And Mr. Henderson?
To the extent that we can, yes.
Thank you. Final question. Will you work with Caleb to help identify and set clear expectations for appointees to the IDB and HEB boards? Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Ms. Dotley?
Yes.
Mr. Henderson?
No.
All right. Thank you all for joining us tonight. It's been really a delightful and enlightening conversation. I live in one of y'all's districts, and so this has been helpful to me. And I want to give you each 1 minute to make some closing remarks. Tell us, where we can find more information about you, how we can access you. And I want to remind everybody to check out the full economic mobility program at calebcha.org on the old internet. And today was the first day of early voting, so get out there and vote. Make an informed choice. We've put up a lot of videos and information on this election on Caleb's website, and numerous community organizations have done the same. So go out there, learn about your council people and the mayor's race, and make an informed vote. The more people we get out, the better democracy we get in Chattanooga. So I will let everybody have 1 minute to give some closing remarks. We'll start with you, Mr. Henderson.
Thank you, and thank you for having this forum. It has it really caused a lot of thinking in my mind. Some things that we can do better, some things that we have to do better, and engage the public in. For those of you that want to know more about me or what I stand for, electchiphenderson.com. You can go to that webpage. It sort of redirects you to my Facebook page. I sort of missed that curve, for the all the technology. So I don't do a lot of Facebook posts, but I do have some out there. But go vote. Go vote.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Dotley?
Yes, they can find me at raquettadotley.com. Also on Facebook and Instagram at Vote Raquetta. And again, early voting is now February 10th through 25th, and the early election day is March the 2nd. So be sure, if you live in District 7, vote Raquetta Dotley, because together we will build stronger communities.
Wonderful. And Ms. Jones, take us out with the last word, please.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much to Caleb for inviting all of us here to this forum. This has been very educational, and I absolutely love being a part of these. To Ms. Dotley and Mr. Henderson, it was so good sharing this space with the both of you. I am excited about this process. You can find more about me at my website, www.electleannemjones.com. There you will be able to find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. You can click those links and they will redirect you from the website. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to call or text me at 423-834-8552. And for those of you that live in District 5, please remember, I am running to be your councilwoman, and know that change is here. As Ms. Dotley said, early voting started today, February 10th through the 25th, and election day is on March 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you all so much. It's been such a pleasure hearing from you. And thanks to all the candidates who have joined us in the past, and all the viewers who have logged on to learn more about their candidates. I'm really hopeful that, I personally have learned way more this year about the local election than I ever have in the past. And I think it's going to be a good one that's going to produce a city that works better for all of us. So with that, I will bid you all good night. Thank you again for coming out tonight. And enjoy the rest of your week. Go vote.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Go vote.
Yeah.